Hello, I would like to share with you some experiences from the blended learning world. Experiences that we've made with some 10 groups over the last 3 years from different companies and even open seminar groups. So the learnings are quite interesting, I think, for the leadership development community. So if you're interested in that topic, I think it would be worthwhile listening to these experiences. I think there are some inspiring ideas in here for how to improve future leadership development programs. So let's go. Here is how we worked before the pandemic. Basically, we were together the whole day, trainers and participants, 8 hours every day. And during those 8 hours, basically everything was happening in the training room. Individual reflection, small breakout groups, trainer inputs, and even individual reflections, all right there. So that was the normal, and when the pandemic hit, we tried to transport this normal onto the computer. So we spent some 8 hours a day with trainers and participants, which was too tiring. So the ideas came about how to restructure this whole thing. So what we've done at the Loop Asia, we actually recorded all the material that the trainers give in the classroom for all our programs. And so the material was downloadable on mobile phones, so people didn't have to sit on the computer to prepare for their training sessions. They actually could go outdoors, like I'm sitting outdoors now, and spend a beautiful day in nature working and learning. And this is what was possible now. So we parked some 2 hours per day for individual reflections and trainer inputs, and another 2 hours for small group breakouts where people were discussing their learnings or their reflections, or doing group exercises or role plays, and bring back the results to the workshop plenary, so to discuss with whole group and trainers. So another 2 hours were saved doing that part of the preparation self-organized. So what remained was a 4-hour workshop, which was a lot more enjoyable. Plus people came prepared, so they had the feeling they were in the process already, even though they didn't sit in the workshop. So the workshop was for deepening the learnings and for discussing in more detail and doing some group exercises that cannot be done self-organized. And from that, basically already 8 hours training cycle, now the transfer started and the reflection after some weeks in small groups again, where they did some peer coaching, and started their preparations for the next part of the training, the next training cycle part, basically. So that was a beautiful thing to see, and it was all based on what we uploaded to the cloud. We did a lot of video recording, a lot of documentation of exercises and self-reflection, self-assessments that we would normally write on a flip chart. Now they were all available in the cloud for people to download and get prepared outside the classroom. And basically all the instructions that you can think of, all process steps, tools, every little thing, self-assessments, even the documentation, now is to be found online. You can see this part here is uploaded to Teachable, which is the Loop Asia's eCloud, e-Academy Cloud. And you find the complete program for beginners, for department heads, unit heads, and for top management groups. You find it all in the cloud up there. So structured for your level of leadership, or depending on the company, what topics are part of the program. So by now we've got some 120 videos up there, which make up some 12 hours in English and in German. Other languages can be added, of course, but that's what we've done so far. So here's the first example to share. That was done with some 5 or 6 groups, and so we had some 6 parts. In this case here is a beginner's program. It's the leadership program was structured in 6 training cycles, 6 parts basically, with 4 hours of preparation and 4-hour online workshop. And you came to part 1, prepared for all the topics that are part of this part 1. And then we discussed this in the training workshop with the transfer. After a few weeks, people would meet again in their peer groups and would do some peer coaching about their transfer learnings. And they would start then preparing for the second part, and they would prepare for these topics, come prepared to the workshop, and so forth. So that would be the typical training cycle in 6 parts in an online blended learning leadership program. And the feedbacks that we received from that was they were quite skeptical in the beginning. They didn't think they would get so much out of the whole training in such a short amount of time, but they did. And the feedbacks were really easy to understand videos, good cloud content, much, much better than preparing from a book. And we should continue using these videos because they're really valuable and they allow for much better use of our training time. It's all well considered and balanced. So that were the feedbacks. And it definitely works online and offline if you can. And it's always available for a lifetime. So that's a beautiful thing. The more critical feedbacks came from some company cultures where people found it very difficult to self-organize in small groups because they don't have always full power over their calendar bookings. And so they requested for HR to actually book the whole preparation time as well, even in their small groups. So, and the second thing that was feedback was the 4-hour workshop in the middle of a training week when you run out of a meeting right into the workshop and then after the 4 hours right out of the workshop into the next meeting. That makes it difficult to focus on personal learning, deep personal learning. So we learned that it may be helpful to position this 4-hour workshop in a time during the week where you're not running from meeting to meeting, where you really have time to focus. So here is an example of how we then blocked things up because of the feedbacks that we received. So we actually put the whole preparation time of 2 parts, like part 1 and part 2, part 3 and part 4, and part 5 and part 6 into blocks A, block B, and block C. That was a full 2 days again, blocked for the whole group of participants. And so in the case of local groups, that would mean they could spend the morning preparing themselves, both individually and in small peer groups, and spend the afternoon, the whole group, together with the trainers in the training workshop. Just like before, but now blocked together in days of 2. And because the pandemic was over, then of course it was very, very easy to think of why don't we do this in the classroom again. So it was possible to do this face-to-face. So the whole structure remained, but we now block things together. And the feedbacks here was that was much richer for learning and much easier, much better. Even the online version of it, people said, is so much better than 6 individual parts. So the block structure is a big learning, was a big pro. In total, I would summarize the blended learning approach certainly is not the number one approach over the face-to-face training that people will always prefer, but we have some settings where this is really, really helpful. First of all, it's really flexible, and no matter you do face-to-face trainings again or not, the video inputs and the flexible preparation time is an asset that can be done in any kind of leadership program, not just the blended one. But the blended version here is really, really good for diverse international groups from different continents that cannot just travel easily. And so the face-to-face meetings would be difficult. So for those groups, what we've done is when they came from different continents, for international groups, you would just book afternoons or mornings for 4 consecutive days in the work week, and that worked for them as well. So people in Asia would work in the afternoon, while people in Europe would work in the mornings, and they'd meet for the workshop or for their preparations together during those time windows. What all of them liked is the participant's responsibility, and I think that's really wanted in the leadership development community. Nobody wants the trainer to run the show all the time. We want participants. They are leaders. They don't need people to instruct them the whole time. So this is a beautiful thing. The self-organization led to much more satisfaction running the show by themselves. And of course, the video inputs, much better use of workshop time, always available. And it's a very flexible thing. So in difficult times, it's easier to switch back to online. It might be interesting to consider these experiences, and maybe they might inspire you to create new ideas for your own leadership projects, leadership development projects. I'm happy to hear about this from you, or should you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Contact me. You find my contact on the website, which is written in here. So wishing you best success for your projects and good success in general, and looking forward to hearing from you. Bye for now.